This is a conversation with Shereen Ahmed. She is the former host of the Lovin Daily Show at Lovin Dubai and former editor in chief at Local Bahrain. In this episode, she shares some really powerful stories from her childhood and her journey of healing from that childhood trauma. In addition, we discussed writing, poetry, growing up in Bahrain, and her time as the host of the Lovin Daily Show. This is no time. If you like what you see, then do hit subscribe on YouTube. It's just one click for man, a giant click for anyway. You can also follow this channel on Spotify or rate 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. This project continues to take a lot of my time, money, and effort. So if you'd like to see it continue, then do consider supporting me on Patreon. Or you can donate a robot that does all the menial tasks. For other forms of love and support, you can always follow this channel on Instagram or Twitter and TikTok, or you can follow me personally, not on TikTok. And now it's no time. So for your episode, I've decided to start every segment with a verse from a poem that I think is relevant.
Why? I'm cringing already.
Why you don't like poems?
I love poems, but not mine, which were written from like a few years back. But then
this
again,
is not
you
yours.
know, oh,
Or just a verse from a poem that I
a
think
poem.
is yeah.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah. So this one, well, that's what I'm going to tell you, right? And then boom, this is the poem by Shereen. No. So this is a poem about nostalgia about childhood, and it's called "I Remember" by
Okay.
Thomas Hood. And the verse is, I remember, the fir trees dark and high. I used to think their slender tops were close against the sky. It was a childish ignorance, but now it's a little joy to know I'm further from heaven than when I was a boy.
Wow.
So let's talk about your childhood now.
Okay, nice one.
So you grew. Oh, thank you. Guys. I'll leave the applause later.
That was a creative way to introduce it. I have to give you the applaud for that.
I'm going to cut this so they can't see me blush, right? So let's talk about your childhood in Bahrain. You spent it partly in Bahrain, partly in Philippines, right?
Yeah. I would say that actually partly Bahrain, partly in Philippines.
So if I had to ask you to describe what growing up in Bahrain in the 90s is like, what are some elements that get you nostalgic about?
I wouldn't be able to tell you what I recall from the 90s. Probably late 2000s, I would say, because bits and like parts of my childhood I remember in glimpses, right? I don't have really as strong a memory as I'd love to have. But yeah, so from what I could remember, I lived a good chunk of my childhood in the Philippines until my father went back and decided to bring my mother and I back to Bahrain. It's a long story why we were back in Philippines in the first place. I think we left when I was like 4 years old, and then he brought us back to Bahrain at like when I was 7, going on 8 years old.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But
Yeah.
so what are some elements that get you nostalgic about Bahrain, like the Mirinda citrus, maybe, or
Oh, so many things. Like we discussed this earlier, Jasmine's, and then upon seeing this, I was like, okay, this really caught my eye. I have to mention it to them, even though it's probably just your casual design piece.
Yeah.
But I noticed it because it's such one of the key elements in my life. If I have to go to Manama, to Bab al Bahrain, which is like the main souk in the capital city, Alu Bashir is my first stop. Haji's is my first stop.
What
It's
is
this
Haji's?
it's this restaurant that's been around since the 50s. And they serve traditional Bahraini breakfast, so eggs and tomato, karak, the whole shebang. And then they also have kind of the rice dishes that we love, so much boost chicken and all of that. And so I'll go there first, and then I'll end it with an alu bashir, maybe an ice cream afterwards. Anywhere around the area, probably a bakala or a barada, as we call it in Bahrain.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Beyond restaurants, is there like a one spot that every person should visit in their life in
Tree
Bahrain?
of Life.
Tree of Life.
Tree of Life. It's so maybe I've romanticized the idea of Tree of Life in my head. I mean, it's this tree that's been around for apparently 400 plus years now, and just stands in the middle of the desert with absolutely no source of water. But I mean, I don't think that's really any special when you live in the UAE, since there's a whole oasis in parts of this country. But still, to us Bahrainis, we've made it a very special thing. We've added kind of a magic to its whole, being. I remember being young and actually writing down my wishes in a piece of paper with my mom and digging it under the sand that surrounds the tree. The wishes have not come true yet,
Oh.
but it's lovely. I
Wait,
mean, it's still a cute thing.
tie like a lock around it or something.
Yeah, I did not do
I
that.
did not
No,
do
it
that.
was
Maybe
not the
that's what you're
Paris love
supposed to do.
lock. I
Did
fucked
someone
up.
tell you why she's digging? They actually have to like
Imagine.
Yeah.
And I acted so secretive about it. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
no one should see this. Like, what if they see the secret? I mean, the wish and it doesn't come true.
It's like handwritten.
Yeah.
Imagine like 100 years later, someone's going to excavate that spot and they're going to find like your handwriting.
They're going to see how shallow my wish was and
I want
probably why it
$1.
didn't come true. I'm like, I want to be a millionaire, you know, type shit.
Is there a difference between like the Bahraini Arabic accent and the Emirati accent?
Big time.
What is
Big time. You know what? Since my Arabic is not perfect, unfortunately, I can't say for sure what it is other than the way that we pronounce things. They're just a little bit more extra. It's a little bit more, it sounds aggressive if you're kind of not a native Arabic speaker. But what I've come to find is that wherever I go in the Khalij, whether I visit Saudi Arabia or the UAE, it's interesting how the fellow GCC peeps like react to Bahraini accents. They seem to love it. I don't know if they love it because it's just hella funny to them and like we're, you know, like I don't know, or is it that they find it cute? They say it's cute, but I feel like it's cute in a funny way. You know what I mean? Like ha ha ha, like we're just so aggressive and like it just sounds so different.
That was the Bahraini accent?
What?
The way you just
No, that was not it.
Let's hear it. You've hyped it up so much.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm really the worst person to exemplify the Bahraini accent. But what can I say? What can I say? Like, okay. I don't know. Give me a sentence that's to say if I can say it.
In Arabic?
In Bahrain.
Oh, you guys are going to see something special today. And that's I mean, okay, I like food. Is that you?
That was so you. That was so you.
Definitely me.
I like food.
That's the only sentence I can think of.
أحب أكل. I don't even know if I'm saying that properly. Like, I'm so sorry to anybody. أحب أكل. Like, okay. We'll say like شلونك, شلونك, شحوال. You know, we have like a few little phrases here and there.
What does that mean?
Like, that's how are you?
Oh,
how
what?
Are you?
Oh, really?
Yeah. شلونك.
كيفك.
شلونك. Here it's like كيفك, right? And like in other parts as well.
Lebanese,
yeah.
Oh,
so that's the thing.
Okay.
Maybe YouTube it and you'll see for yourself. Because there are different dialects within the Bahraini accent as well.
Any question? Just YouTube it. Google it.
Imagine. I'm done. Bye. Imagine.
Why don't you just Google it? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a quick tell me what you think round.
Oh my God.
You've spent so many years playing this game with other people.
Literally.
Yeah, let's see how you feel now. So it's a quick round. Tell me what you think. Team Jasmine's or Team McDonald's?
Jasmine's always.
Why?
Local. Why not? It's nostalgic and it's kind of like McDonald's in a sense, but I mean, it just brings back better memories because it reminds
memories,
me of
not the food. Both are junk.
I mean, you could say, but you could not say. Yes.
It's
oh my God, it feels weird being on this end of this. Now I know exactly how the guest felt.
It's special to me, right?
Oh my God.
Okay, next one. Tree of Life or Dera Sook?
Oh no. Tree of Life. I have to. I mean, I love Dera Sook. I love Dera Sook so much. But Tree of Life.
They've already switched it off by now. They're like, fuck it. Damn. She doesn't like Dera Sook. That's crazy. Okay, next. Tikka in Manama or shawarma in Dubai?
Oh my God, you've done your research.
There are a lot of interns that work on the show, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, unpaid.
I love that.
Yeah, unpaid.
Better.
Fuck
exploitation.
Yeah. Why?
Live for it.
Yeah, why would I?
Tikka any day. Tikka any day.
Tikka any day, huh?
Always.
These are not tough questions, it looks like. Huh?
No, it's chill.
Let's try to give you a tough question.
Oh, no.
Which is the best romantic comedy movie of all time? Ooh. Options: Sleepless in Seattle, Notting Hill, Pretty Woman.
How dare you do that? Those are all my favorites.
Oh,
Those are all my favorites.
That intern's getting a raise today.
Pretty Woman, though. Pretty Woman.
Why?
Oddly enough. I don't know. There's something about Julia Roberts. I mean, she was great in Notting Hill too, but it was an amazing performance in Pretty Woman. And I really like the music choices and her chemistry with Richard Gere. And the fact that it's an odd story. It's not your typical fairy tale story, is it? It's more, I mean, at least it tells a different tale. It's not just a heroine and like, you know, a nice innocent gal that's like just one-sided and then the guy that, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I mean, it's become more mainstream now, obviously, the story of the rich guy and the...
I actually thought this round would be tough questions, but I think you've aced it. You got the experience of the tell me what you think round since you invented it. Okay, so while we're on the topic of Bahrain, do you think growing up in a very small island where everyone knows everyone, everyone's a bit more laid back, does that give you like a stronger sense of community, like you belong? Because sometimes I feel growing up in a big city can be quite isolating.
For me personally, yes. Okay, for sure, it does give you a sense of community, but I can't say for sure that I relate to it on a personal level. I know that it works that way for other people, but not necessarily for me. I know that I've always had a great community in Bahrain, but I see it this way. I see it as living in your hometown or growing up in your hometown is just a little bit too comfortable for me, and I don't know how I feel about comfort in that sense. I like to be challenged, and when I live elsewhere, there's a bit of there's more of a push for me to get things done as opposed to if I'm back home. So yes, there is a community, but I still did kind of feel isolated within that community. I feel more in touch with the community that's not my own sometimes, and I don't know why actually. I don't know why. Maybe it could be because of the biracial thing. Maybe because even in the Philippines, I had never really felt like I fully belonged. You know. So like you never feel like you're too Filipino when you're in the Philippines, and you never feel like you're Bahraini enough for Bahrain. And then there's also the thing where my actual Bahraini family also has Persian roots, so they'll sometimes speak in Farsi at home at my grandma's place, and I still also can't relate because I also don't understand or speak that language. So I'm like, what do I identify with? And I've just realized that identify with the world. Fuck it.
That was actually my next question, where you are half Bahraini, half Filipino. I wanted to ask you whether it can work two ways. Like the Bahrain thing is that you can either find it liberating that you can get along with anyone in the world, you're a citizen of the world, or you don't belong with any one group, and that can get a bit tough. And it feels like it's a mix of both.
It's a mix of both
Yeah.
in a good way. I wouldn't have it any other way, I'll say. I really wouldn't have it any other way because I can't imagine just being Bahraini now or just being Filipino. It's so great to me that they're two complete extremes in terms of religion, culture, ideals, all of that. But I get to live both. And so it gives me more of a wider perspective and a range of experiences in my lifetime. I fucking love that. Yeah.
That's good to know because I'm mixed as well.
What's your mix, love?
I'm half Indian, half stupid. I should edit that in post, right?
Nice one. Yeah, that's
Just
your
after the
teaser trailer
punchline,
right
put like
there.
"Wah, wah, wah." Do it later. Yeah.
I love that for you. I mean,
Yeah,
what's
being
it
half
like?
stupid. That must be really.
What's it like?
Yeah. What a liberating experience, I must say, being stupid. Okay, so you are half Bahraini because your father's from Bahrain, and half Filipino because your mother's from Philippines,
Yes.
right? So let's talk about your mother first. She's been a very strong role model in your life and a massive source of inspiration for you. So if I can just quickly ask you to summarize her story, and what are some of her top qualities that you always look to emulate in life?
Oh wow, that's so nice because I could sit and talk about my mother for
It's a
hours.
podcast. This is the format.
My mother's story. My mother left home when she was very young. Obviously, she didn't come from a very affluent family, but a respectable one. I think her grandfather was like, what did he do? He was a lawyer and he created the city in which we actually live. He named the city in which we live in Philippines in Cavite. It's called Trece Martires City. And I found a Google article about him that actually says that he was one of the very few politicians that everyone knew wasn't corrupt. So, he didn't take any wealth with him. He lived and died a very honest man and just stuck to his values and just helped the people around him. And I feel like that's one of the very same values that my mother, like, obviously has. So, like I said, she left to Korea when she was 16 to work. And then that led her to Bahrain. I think at 18, 19, she was in Bahrain. Met my dad, had me. They got married, had me. She stayed with my dad's family for a bit of time. And then obviously the range of affairs took place. So she decided then to fuck off and take me along with her to the Philippines. Um, that's her in a nutshell, I would say. But my mom has raised me for most of my life. And yeah, I would say that one of her three top qualities that I really fucking admire is her strength, her persistence, and just how street smart she is. How fucking street smart she is. Could never be me, honestly, when I look back at all the gigs that she used to do when I was young and how she made it work. Oh, and her optimism. Oh, there's just so much. There's literally just so much. Like, you wouldn't think that someone, if like, some people would look at my story and be like, oh my God, traumatizing, tears, la la la. But then imagine the woman who had to go through those things and raise me as well. And like, my mom has worse stories than I could ever tell. I can't say it even in my lifetime. I would probably have to wait, I mean, honestly, realistically, much later on in life to be able to tell the stories of my mom, should she even want these stories out. But she's sacrificed a lot. She's a very sacrificial person, and she's generous. Um, I don't even know. There's just so much. She's
Yeah.
literally my role model in terms of like the values that she holds.
Every
So,
time you spoke about her in interviews, she comes across as a woman of great strength and character.
yeah,
But she's had a very tough journey.
very.
And you were there for one of her tough moments when you were 9 years old, and she heard sirens in the background. She gave you a package, right?
Yeah, she thought she heard sirens because she was on certain drugs. So obviously, I think now that I know what that is and what that can do to someone's mind, I get it now. Because obviously, when I was 8, I was like, okay, my mom's telling me that she's hearing sirens. She was paranoid about something, and I know exactly what she was going through at the time with a certain family member of hers. I can't really say much about that, but she got paranoid, and I think with along with the whatever she with the drugs that she took with that, obviously that, I don't know, I don't have that resulted, but then she had asked me to flush her drugs down the toilet, and it was my first time actually seeing that. um what was the question? I always get so confused.
No, it was just this story. This is
Yeah,
a
yeah,
defining point.
defining
And
that.
yeah,
Yeah, so I had to flush the drugs down the toilet, and I was really confused by what had happened. um
you've spoken in the past that this was the moment where the child in you died.
yeah.
I have some questions, but just before that, for those who don't know, if you can just set the context. So, where does your father fit into this? What is his situation, and where's he at this point?
Okay, at this point, like I said, he had taken my mom and I back to Bahrain from the Philippines because they had their own marital issues. I guess there was a series of affairs, and he couldn't really, keep true to the commitments that he had promised that he would keep. So my mom took me back to the Philippines, and I think my grandfather from my dad's side's, I don't know, last dying wish was to bring us back. So then he did take us back. We lived with him for some time. Again, it didn't work out with the two of them. They did try to make it work again, though, but it didn't work out. And at this point was when my mom was like, "Screw it, fuck it, we're like, I'm doing this on my own." Um, Sometimes with the help of my father, it was always an in and out situation, but it wasn't ever really consistent. So my dad at this point was probably running whatever businesses he had, and we weren't really fully in contact with him like that. Like throughout my life, from my childhood until now, I can only really remember at most, maybe in my childhood it was more frequent, but my relationship with him was mostly like, okay, like I'll receive a phone call like every few months saying, "Hi, how are you, Baba? How's school going?" Okay, cool. Up until I was actually done with university, it was still a house school because there really wasn't much else
Yeah.
for him to ask, I guess.
Mm.
So
Where is
very
he now?
distant. He is now in prison. I think he's been sentenced to 15 years in prison
For?
for selling narcotics, for being part of that whole thing.
Every time I've heard you speak about your story, it feels to me that you have worked actively towards removing any kind of blame from anyone.
Yeah,
And you've spoken about your favorite quote is by Anne Frank, where she says that I keep my ideals because, in spite of everything, I still believe people are good at heart. And it feels like you're actually practicing that. For your father, you've spoken in the past that what's a man going to do? Society clearly didn't give him any chance, and he was repeatedly dealt a bad hand. And you've tried to put yourself in this position to see what you
yeah.
could have done. And the same with your mother as well, in the situation she was in.
Both of them didn't have the same opportunities that I did now. And I think that's why I thank my mom for having given me the opportunities and, like all these options that we have now available to us with social media. And for me, for getting the education that I did, none of them had that. You know what I mean? So I can't really blame them for
Yeah.
any of that.
I find that very powerful because you worked on identifying there's a lot of things that were not in your control,
Right.
and that's not your fault.
Yeah.
But what you're trying to do is you're trying to pick out the things that you can control, which
Exactly.
which I feel is your reaction to what happened and whether you're going to let that define your present and your future.
Exactly.
I'm saying the right things, I hope, or is my half
You
stupid
are.
part this talking?
No, 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 no,
No.
no. All good. I'm
Okay.
doubting that there's a half stupid part at all, but
Oh,
yeah, no,
that
for
must be good
sure.
for me. Yeah.
Definitely. Because, like, I mean, I've talked about this in the past as well. It was like, it was always something that it was so normal to me, right? I normalized it all throughout my childhood growing up. I would make jokes about it with my friends, like, ha ha ha, ha, like I'm like the mafia's daughter, like whatever, like, I mean, it was, I guess, and now that I'm older, I realized that that was my way of, it was my coping mechanism for sure, because I actually thought I did the work by doing that, but that wasn't doing the work. Me normalizing it to myself wasn't doing the work, and that's why it affected the later parts of my adulthood, right? Like the very moment that I realized that I needed to reflect back into that and do the work to accept what had happened and get to this stage where I can accept it, was because a lot of my relationships with men ended with me accepting different types of abuse, whether verbal, emotional, with the cheating, whatever, at some point, even physical, light physical abuse. Like, and then I was like, why do I keep putting myself in these situations? I know they're wrong. My intuition tells me this is wrong about this person, but why the fuck do I keep accepting it? And that's when I was like, well, I can't keep carrying this along with me, because I couldn't do the 9 to 5 work at Lovin Dubai anymore. It was so difficult, and I blamed everything else in the job for it. And then that's when I had to take a step back, because I'm like, wait, do I actually hate what I'm doing and where I'm at in life now? I now have a 1 bedroom apartment. I have a car. I'm living in this city that I love. And I've always wanted to be this person. I've always wanted to be in media. How am I never happy whenever I'm in a position where I'm the most abundant on surface level? And then that's what, don't like pushed me to finally get help for that.
The first time you spoke about this was for the Rock You Ugly photo shoot? That was the
Yes,
first time, right?
that was the first time. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I have a time travel machine here and we can go back in time. So let's go back in time to the exact moment where Walid Shah, whose project it was, Rock You Ugly, he reached out to you and asked you to share your
I
story.
reached out to him.
Oh, you reached out to him.
I reached
Oh,
out to
amazing.
him because we had him on the Lovin show.
Yeah.
We had him come over and talk about Rock Your Ugly. And so upon seeing, and I had already been following up anyway, because obviously I've worked with Walid Shah in the past, because I also do a bit of modeling gigs. And I knew him from like, 3-4 years back. We worked on a shoot for Yas Island, I think. It was great. He's a nice guy. Even when I had red hair, he was like, I want to shoot you, because his favorite color is red. So I was like, oh my God, cool. I've always admired his work. And so when Rock Your Ugly came out, I was like, okay. Because I've always been really into learning about other people's lives, because that was another coping mechanism for me it was like my self-soothing technique as well, because I couldn't really afford therapy, or it was always something I overlooked as something that I needed, because it was so normalized to me that I thought to myself, "Khalas, like I'll read about other people's stories if they're going through it and see what I can do." But basically, Rock Your Ugly, he came over and did the interview, and then right after the interview, right after we got off air, I was like, "Listen, I wanna talk to you about something. I want to do this thing." He's like, "Okay, cool, let's do it," and that's how it really took place.
I have a question on this, but while you spoke about red hair and men in the past who've treated you wrong, I actually remember this another verse from a poem, which I think is relevant,
Oh my God,
but
tell.
I haven't written it down, so I might be butchering it.
Okay,
It's I think from the poem Lady Lazarus by Sylvia Plath, and
nice,
she
love her.
says, "Out of the ash, I rise with my red hair, and I eat men like air."
I love
Yeah, it's
that.
so powerful, right?
Sylvia Plath.
I wish I had red hair and
Boss.
eat men. Anyway, back to Rocky Ugly. So when you reached out to him, what are you thinking at that point? Because you haven't spoken about this to anyone, and then you have to make the switch.
I've spoken about it with my friends, right?
Friends,
Like I
yeah.
said, always in a joking way. So I assumed that when I would talk about this with Walid, it would be I thought it would just be casual, like how I've always told it, maybe a bit more. I didn't think that I would be way too vulnerable. I actually this is shit to say, but I even kind of practiced at some point. I was like, okay, I'm only gonna be telling him this much, right? Because there's just way, like, if you think my Rock Your Ugly story was as vulnerable as can be, there's just so much more. And I think that's with everyone's stories, right? You'll choose parts of the stories which you're comfortable sharing, and other parts that you might not even be able to share, right? Because it's not up to you. Other people are involved in the story. But yeah, so I practiced the fuck out of that shit. But then when I got in front of him and he asked me all these questions, I was like bawling out. Bawling out. It was like, I don't even know how long that conversation was for. And he was recording everything. So when you read the Rock Your Ugly, it was actually a transcript of the audio recording. And there was just I think just one thing that I had him leave out because it's way too sensitive to share. But everything else I was just like, fuck it, just go for it.
Ever since you opened up to him, I think you've then embarked on this journey of spiritual awakening and healing that 9-year-old inside you that's wanting to
Like
be her.
truly healing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought I was already on a spiritual journey a year before that when I was in Bahrain, because I went through the same thing. Had my apartment, I was working with Lovin Saudi, so I worked remotely from home. I worked remotely from home. And that was the first time I ever got my first apartment on my own. You know what I mean? I had my cat, I had the car, I was in my hometown, and it was supposed to be the thing that it was my childhood dream that I had now achieved on paper, right? Have my own place, have my own car, have the dream job, and the cat. But I felt fucking empty. I felt fucking empty. And I thought that would change. And I thought there were temporary things that I did. I went through the spiritual journey of at least accepting why I felt that way and accepting that, okay, fine. So as it turns out, achieving your dreams doesn't actually equal to happiness, right? There's some things on the inside. And I knew that those things were there, but still at this point, I did not do the work to fully analyze, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why did I accept this shit and that shit? How do I change this? What do I do moving forward? How do you actually heal? It was just more, I just followed the concrete shit on paper. You know, I did the whole meditation, the yoga, and I thought I was doing well, but there was still a block inside me that again came back to haunt me when I returned to Dubai, was working with Love in Dubai, and then got in another relationship. So really the triggers have always been when I'm in a relationship. When I'm alone, I guess it's something that's less triggered or something.
One of the ways that you've also worked on healing is hypnotherapy.
Yes.
So, what is hypnotherapy?
So hypnotherapy, how do I put this in a simpler way? Because I don't want
You
to.
have to dumb it down for
I
me.
really don't want to. Because I really don't want to fuck up what it is. You know what I mean? But because I had no idea what the fuck it was going into it. All I know is that my colleague at Lovin was like, you know what? Try this person out. JLT office is there. You have no fucking excuses. Just go. This guy's been recommended. He's really great. I'm like, okay, cool. Hypnotherapy is basically, it's kind of like talk therapy, except you're put in a really meditative headspace. So you're laying down for an hour or 2 hours, and you're put in a really meditative state. So kind of like just how you would do yoga nidra, which is a type of right yoga that you just lay down and you try to obliterate thoughts from your head and you just focus on your breathing. So it's like that, except once you're in that space where you're focused on your breathing and there's nothing else and your body's basically at rest, you try to the therapist tries to tap into your subconscious. They do this by bringing you in, by uttering words that bring you to a certain place in your life, a certain time in your life. And my specific hypnotherapy was focused on healing my inner child. You know, I went out on a whim. I'm like, listen, I don't even know if this is an inner child thing that I need to work on, but I know I need to just talk to someone. So that's what I did. I just went in and he was like, okay, you need fucking inner child healing. Like he knew for off the bat. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, like that does sound ideal. You need this many sessions. I'm like, oh my God, okay, cool. I didn't know what to do anymore at this point. So I was just going with it.
Are you actually hypnotized at the point? Like, are you in a trance state? Do you have memory of what happened, or you are aware?
You do have memory of what happened. For me
Okay,
personally,
oops.
I don't know if people really get to a point where they're like, oh my God, like fuck, I can't remember what the fuck just took place. I would say I was conscious a lot of the time, but then a lot of the things I was saying surprised. I even surprised myself because they really did come from the subconscious. Like there were certain pivotal moments from my childhood that I had completely put aside and forgotten. And only in those moments where I was asked to face different age points of myself and different people in my life in the ages that he mentioned did I get to be put in that position again. So the flushing my mom's drugs down the toilet, that was something I completely fucking forgot. But when I was asked, like like when I was asked, okay, what was the moment, like what's the worst moment that you remember in your childhood? In my conscious state of mind, if someone were to ask me that during that time, at least, that wasn't something that I would have said. I would have said something like, "Oh, my daddy issues. Like, yeah, it just sucks, I guess, to not know what having a dad feels like or having that love from a dad. Ha ha ha." You know. But when the moment that those flashbacks came to me of me actually physically, taking the drugs, flushing it down the toilet, and just the mayhem that was going on with my mother, and how I was so confused. I didn't know how to deal with it. And I was like, what the fuck? That, wow, that really took me back. So that was the powerful moment for me in hypnotherapy.
You're kind of role playing the 9-year-old, and that acts as a point
You're
of,
role playing, right?
as a
Because right,
catharsis.
you're put in a place where there are absolutely no distractions, and you have to face certain people in your life, and you have to talk to yourself. So that was the tough part. That was the tough part, because I couldn't even face, let's say, 8-year-old me, because you really get to visualize, right? When you're in that like a trance state like that, you get to visualize how you looked. I saw my 8-year-old self, and it was so profound. And I couldn't even look 8-year-old me in the eye. And I was asked to say really healing affirmations to the 8-year-old me, and to kind of be that older sister like figure to my younger self. And just thinking about it now, like, could make me go into tears. But like, it's just such an emotional, it was just such an emotional time. And I really, truly, I highly suggest for anybody who've repressed certain things from their childhood to go through it, because it's just one more thing lifted off of you once you're done with those sessions. It's incredible. And you need that. You need to be able to look back and accept what was, and accept that, like you said, it was really not in your control if things weren't, it didn't go according to what you thought what it should have gone.
You've written a letter to your 15-year-old self. You wrote this
Oh,
when you were
wow. You
21.
really dug.
Unpaid interns, not me.
All right.
So now, if you were to write that letter again, or let's say we have that time travel machine once again, what would you tell 15-year-old Shereen? What advice would you give her?
15-year-old Shereen. Oh my God, I can't remember much from my 15-year-old self.
You like
Where was
Tokyo
I
Hotel?
at that? Fucking love Tokyo Hotel. Still do. Still a fan.
Still fan. Oh, I
Still
thought
a
you like, why
fucking
did you bring that
fan.
up? Cut.
No, I fucking love Tokyo Hotel. What do you mean? My scene kid days? Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
That was
Being
when you
bullied
peaked.
for it? Love that. They
Yeah.
say be yourself. I
Yeah.
really felt I was myself with my black eyeliner and dark nail polish, and but apparently no one wants you to be an emo / scene kid.
Oh, really? Oh, that wasn't the thing? Oh, damn.
That wasn't a thing. Imagine. I
Didn't
was
get the
so
memo.
hurt. No. I was even a YouTuber at that point. Wow, I really should have continued with that.
Is that still like
I
public?
really hope not. No one search it. No one search it.
I
Don't
didn't-
search it. I will
Will I
not.
search it? What is it
Because
called?
I don't think I ever really deactivated it.
Ooh.
My scene kid name was Shereen Suicide. Don't ask. Don't ask.
Well, now that you've shared it,
I
until this episode airs, you have the moment to go and hide it.
Shereen Suicide. But yeah, what was the question?
The question was, I got sidetracked. What would you tell 15-year-old Shereen?
What will I tell 15-year-old Shereen? 15-year-old Shereen. You know what? Keep doing what you're doing. Honestly, you're in the right headspace. I just wish that you knew. I mean, it's hard though to explain to you right now that actually you becoming a journalist or getting all these things that you think, the materialistic things that you think will change your life and make you feel better, or is the end goal, isn't really the end goal. You have to have, you have to have further plans for yourself, and actually do what you're really passionate about. But at the same time, keep going at the pace that you're at, because that's the only way you'll get to where you are now. I mean, I wouldn't wish for faster healing for 15-year-old me. I feel like that just would have been way too early on. I wouldn't have understood the concept of any of the things that I'm talking about now. So I have really no regrets with any fucking thing. So just keep going, 15-year-old Shereen. Do you, sis? We'll get to you later.
When you talk about not having any regrets, so if let's say you have the time travel machine and you also have the power of changing your past and giving yourself, in quotes, a normal childhood, would you do it?
I mean, sure. I mean, the reason that I guess we're so as a society obsessed with the concept of time travel is because some of us would wish we could change some things, a few decisions along the way from our past. And sure, if I had the option, yes, but I still feel like there's a reason that I was put in the place that I was now. May that be karmic retribution. Maybe I did really shitty things in my past life, or maybe I was just meant to be put in all these trials and tribulations so that I could survive whatever next aspects of my future, um, that will come to life. But or because of this story, because maybe this story will reach out to somebody else, someone who's as young as I was, 8, 9 years old. Maybe they're going through it now and they're hearing this because no one really talked about this when I was younger, especially not in this region. So maybe there's more Hafis like me who are going through it. And it might make them feel better, just like me reading autobiographies of celebrities who have gone through traumatic past makes me feel better. Just like me watching YouTube videos of people who have overcome trauma have made me feel better. So yeah, no regrets. Will not change a thing is my answer.
I find that very powerful because both you and me in agreement that we don't wish this upon anyone and we're not trying to glorify it. But
Right.
the truth is that it does happen to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And if it does, then the kind of approach you have taken, I think, can serve as a very powerful symbol for what people can do to get out of it.
Exactly.
And I think your story, I really appreciate that you've chosen to share the story on this show as well.
Thank you.
It must be tough talking about it. So, as a thank you for you, I have more verses from poems here.
Go for it.
This one's dedicated to you specifically.
My
So, the
God.
first poem is it's called I Rise by Maya Angelou.
Nice.
And the verse is out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise.
Oh,
Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bring in the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise.
wow.
I rise. I rise. I have another poem here. This
It's
I
fucking poignant, that one. That
Yeah.
literally like made me almost want to tear up. So poignant.
I think it's quite relevant to your life as well. You have risen above all the difficulties that have come your way. I have another poem here. Now that I know your sentiments on your own poems, I'm regretting putting this in, but I guess we'll just put it in. So
Which
you know
one?
the poet really well. It's you. This is a poem that's written in a different context, I think, but I thought it was relevant for the moment.
Oh my God. Oh my
This is a
God.
poem called Silence by Shereen Ahmed.
Oh wow.
And the verse is this room was the birthplace of emotions, of poetic violence and misleading comfort. We loved profoundly but destroyed each other. And so the silence, it filled the room with sounds of freedom, patience, and magic. I say goodbye and do not regret it.
Wow.
Still powerful.
Still powerful. Oh my God. I was so young when I wrote that.
So let's talk about your writing then.
Yeah.
So when did the love for writing and poetry in particular for you, when did it start?
Again, I would say about around the time of my mother and I came back from the Philippines to Bahrain at the age of 8. It was what kickstarted it. I read The Diary of Anne Frank, right? Which is why one of my favorite quotes is from her. And again, I don't know why, I just felt like I could relate to her because I was actually such a shy kid. I would have never thought that fucking years later I'd be here sitting and talking to you or being or to be such a social person. Even I was just so awkward. I didn't know how to talk to people. If my mom came and introduced me to her friends, I'd be the one that's literally I was so closed off like this. Like I was actually so awkward. So I often got lost in books and in Disney stories, much like other little girls. But I enjoyed my own company, which is why I still feel the same now. I will go and watch a movie today on my own because I fucking love my own company. My God, I'm so much fun to hang out with. My fucking mind can, you know what I mean? I don't need anybody, but it's nice too. We like their company. Okay, I'm going off topic again.
What were some of
okay.
your favorite books or authors when you were reading?
Oh my
back
God.
then?
Like I said, Diary of Anne Frank,
Yep.
autobiographies of literally every celebrity. And a lot of my childhood, I was really, really hooked onto ancient Egyptian books or anything that's to do with archaeology. I am still really passionate about ancient Egypt. I mean, I even have a tattoo of Nefertiti here. I don't know if you
And
can
see it on the camera. Oh, are you showing me or the camera? Well, both.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
For my obsession, and I've been to Egypt like 3 times now, and my next trip is definitely going to be in Luxor to visit the more temples at Karnak and Luxor and all that. So I've really always been fascinated by ancient Egyptian history.
If I were to ask you to recommend 5 books that you think every person should read, what would they be?
Oh my God. Okay. The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. Really good book. The Game of Desire by Shan Boodram is one that I read recently. She's a sexologist expert. It's random, I know, but I always felt like, right, I felt like with my past relationships, I had to really rebuild myself to be a better partner for future partners and to be able to identify the kind of qualities that I look for in a partner, because I feel like in the past I've always just been drawn to certain types of men, distant men, and there's a reason for that. And so the Game of Desire really helps everyone actually cultivate that, to cultivate yourself and to radiate kind of that intimacy within yourself that works not just for relationships but for you as a person, as an individual. So Game of Desire by Shan Boodram, Book Thief. Oh my god. Why can't I think of any off the bat? There's so many though. There's so many. I right now I suggest for people to also, if they're into really reading about the same things that I mentioned earlier, like something of a self-help or reading someone else's journey through trauma, Demi Moore's autobiography was really interesting for me. She had a really, really rough childhood, and it's just so interesting to see how she's overcome all the adversities that she's faced through that in Hollywood up until now. What else? Why the fuck can't I think of
Not to
anything
put you under
else?
pressure. If something comes to your mind, just keep
I'll
adding
just
it.
I'll keep it
Yeah.
up later. Yeah.
Because I was reading, I should have read these books instead of reading Archie's Tintin.
Fucking loved Archie's comics
Goosebumps,
too.
yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Hardy Boys.
Betty and Veronica's Double Digest.
Are
Are you kidding me? I collected that shit. I had mountains. I'm telling you, I was such a loner kid. Like I escaped these worlds. I fucking loved Riverdale.
But Goosebumps, I think looking back, shouldn't have done Goosebumps.
Which one was Goosebumps?
You know the scary ones, like
The
they
scary
have-
Archies? No, I didn't
Not
do.
Archies. It was not
Wait.
comics. It was
Oh,
just
no,
like
no.
those books where like something scary happens.
Okay, no, I wasn't familiar
The
with that.
mask takes over the person.
I can't do that. I
See,
can't do horror.
It's good. It's good you didn't, because that was the only book. I don't know why I did that. Along with Harry Potter and all of those Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew,
Harry Potter,
Enid
Nancy
Blyton, yeah,
Drew.
all that stuff. Okay, let's talk about poetry.
Yeah.
So Robin Williams in the movie Dead Poet Society said that we don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race, and human race is filled with passion. Medicine, law, business, engineering.
My favorite fucking movie line from Dead Poet
Yeah.
Society.
These are noble pursuits necessary to sustain life, but poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for.
Yes.
So I'm guessing you agree with this.
Obviously.
Does poetry add meaning to your life?
Big time. I wish I did more of it now. I say this every single time, but I've just been, in the last year or so, I've just been so focused on obviously healing and obviously the day-to-day life, and especially with the pandemic now, you don't really get, I haven't been inspired, if I'll be fully fucking honest. I really haven't been inspired, or maybe it's because I was so used to the 9 to 5 that I use that as an excuse to avoid poetry. Because, see, for me, putting pen to paper in poetic terms is me acknowledging whatever the fuck it is I'm going through. So sometimes I'll avoid that because fuck, I don't want to accept that right now as my reality. It depends. It all depends on my, obviously, the emotions that I'm currently facing. But that does, yeah, it does add value to my life. It's the closest feeling I'll ever get to magic is when I write and finish a piece of poem.
You've mentioned in the past that to be a good poet, you have to be in tune with your emotions. So do you then feel poetry is just like a vessel to convey, getting the words right, but maybe the essence or your soul, and it's just
For
a way,
sure.
it's just a way to channelize that.
For sure. But and it's also a way to channel other people's emotions and just every little detail of the world around you, right? Because it doesn't have to, poetry doesn't even have to be emotions focused. But if I'm talking about that fucking plant, for example, I could write it in a way where it would still have the it would convey emotion, basically,
Right.
without needing a real kind of human story to it. It's just the essence, like you said, it's the essence of whoever is writing it. And I think everyone can be a poet, like whether if they just gave it a try. Obviously everyone can.
Yeah, well, can we explore that? Do you think it's important for every writer to be a poet because it adds like this lyrical quality or musical quality to your writing? That would
I mean, it depends what kind of a writer you've been and want to be, right? When I started studying journalism and media at university, I thought I was just going to be a magazine's feature writer for fashion columns because that seemed ideal. I was into fashion as well. I'm still into fashion, but now that I think about it, no, those are they're two different things. But it would be ideal. Not just for writers. I think everyone can look to writing, um, free verse, for example, as a creative outlet, as a way to express your emotions if you're not a very vulnerable person to other people, even. So,
Do you think poetry gets harder with age? Because you mentioned the
yeah.
past when you were young, you could just see the words swimming around, pick the ones you like.
Yes,
Now you feel you get a
yes.
bit more critical of it, removes the
Fucking
essence.
critical. Yeah, the
Mm.
more you know, right? The more you know. So obviously with age you just start doubting yourself. You're like, "Oh my god, fuck, is this too Instagram poemy? Like I don't know what to do." That's kind of why I stopped being consistent with the Saunders speech, which was previously the Blonde Thief, as an extension of the blog, because I just felt like, fuck, okay, so, and I tend to have this thing where I am my own worst critic, so I would compare myself to others. I'm just like, fuck, but is it too cheesy? Maybe writing too much about this like romance and whatever the fuck the topics were that I usually wrote about were just too mainstream in essence. So there's a lot of doubts that come into play, and that really fucked with my creativity, if you will. So I miss that. I miss that time when I would actually really just close my eyes and the words would just flow. I miss that. I feel like now I would just judge each and every word and stanza. But I think if you keep practicing again, which I haven't done, so I have to practice what I preach, you'll eventually get to that point. What's happening with your Lego there? Falling
So
apart?
yeah, sorry about that. So, not clearly not great at this stuff.
You would think. No, I think you are. You've done like what? How many episodes of this building blocks thing?
557th, this one. Ladies and gentlemen, check it out. No.
So actually,
Would you like to hear some poetry jokes?
fuck yeah, why not?
Okay, let's go. I dig, you dig, we dig, he digs, she digs, they dig. It's not a beautiful poem, but it's deep.
I didn't know where it was going at first. I was like, where the fuck is he going with this? Nice one.
Do you want more?
Sure.
I have actually a whole list, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
What do you call a writer who doesn't follow the rules of sentence structure?
What?
A rebel without a clause.
Oh my god, wait, that's funny. I
Isn't
need a
it?
shirt in that.
Whichever intern wrote
Rebel
that.
without a clause.
Another one?
Yeah.
What do writers have for breakfast?
Not me trying to guess it. What do they have for breakfast?
Oh, don't tell me, don't tell me.
Right?
Synonym buns. That's bad, right? I think it's getting worse with time. I have a final one.
Go for it.
It
Since
didn't-
you seem very keen.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, I didn't make the cut, but now I'm like, well, while we're in the zone, why not? Okay, so this is a long one. So there was a guy who fell in love with two women, couldn't decide what he wanted to do. So he went to a counselor, and the counselor was like, okay, why didn't you tell me what the women are like? And the guy's like, sir, one of them is a baker, she bakes cakes, and the other one is a poet. And the counselor like, oh, that's a common problem. You can't decide for better or worse.
I'm over it. I'm done. You did your thing.
Oh shit.
you really were you gonna do like a bowing moment? Are you proud
I
of
was
yourself for
expecting
that
a standing
last one?
ovation, no, but then the audience clearly didn't like
There's
it.
that one person over there
The
that's
plant.
giving it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The mop.
The one that you won't write a poem on. That plant. Clearly. Hope you enjoy.
I'm having fun.
My
I'm
jokes.
having fun with your
Yeah.
jokes.
Yeah, glad no one's pointing a gun to your head. Are you having fun? Yeah, I'm having fun. Okay, so let's talk about hosting.
Yes.
You were the former host of the Lovin Daily show.
Lovin Daily and the Lovin Show.
All right. So how did you get into hosting?
Well, I had been working with Lovin Dubai for a good 3-4 years at this point. After university, Richard, the founder of Lovin Dubai, Lovin Saudi, and all of that, actually found me on internsme.com. I don't know if you're familiar with that website. Remember? So I was looking for an internship, obviously, and I had done a video resume. And so he responded to that shit, and he was like, "You know what? Come the fuck through." I'm like, "Okay, lit."
That's what he said. Exactly.
Yeah, he just said that word for word. I'm kidding. And then I went, and interestingly enough, literally on the first day of the internship, he's like, "Okay, write an article and we'll publish it." I was like, "Excuse me, what? What do you mean?" And that's one of the best lessons I've learned from Rich and working with Love in Dubai ever since, is that, you just have to fucking do it. Just get it done. Just try, because you'll never know. And that was the same way I got into hosting, because I worked with him after the internship. It was a part-time position. And then it turned to a full-time job when he wanted to set up Love in Saudi. So I set it up for the first year all on my own. We wanted to obviously tap into the English market there. That was great. And I worked remotely from Bahrain. And then he said, come to Dubai, where I worked for Love in Dubai. And then they were like, oh, you're not just gonna write this time. Obviously, you know that, right? You stupid bitch. No, I'm kidding. They didn't say that.
His
You're not
words
just
are.
gonna. No, I'm kidding. He's gonna hate me. No, you're not just gonna write this time. You have to host. There's gonna be a
Right.
couple of shows. I was like, excuse me, what do you mean? I can't talk in front of like I can't talk in front of the camera. I've never done that. What do you mean? I need training. I need this. He's like, no, just do it. So I did it, and I guess I'm even more comfortable being in front of the camera now that I am fucking writing articles, which is insane. I never thought I would ever say that
Do you
because,
remember
like I
the?
said, I'm really awkward and shy
Did you
usually.
remember the first day you were in front of the camera?
Yes, I stumbled, mumbled,
Yeah.
stuttered, almost cried. Yeah, there was one time I think I said the S word on a live stream, and we had to take it down immediately and edit it because I got way too comfortable. So lots of blunders here and
Shit.
there.
Is
Yeah, I
that?
said
Oh,
shit.
that's.
I said shit.
Wow.
But that was
Shit.
also during Ramadan. So can you imagine how bad?
Oh
I'm out
yeah.
here like talking about the kindness and the good deeds going around during Ramadan in Dubai, and then I accidentally say shit on a live. And one of the viewers was actually like, haha, I heard that. I'm like, "Fuck."
Oh damn.
So we had to take it down immediately.
What is your favorite memory, favorite guest? One memory that sticks out to you.
Oh, so many guests. You know, funnily enough, I was actually rewatching some of my interviews last night for some fucking odd reason, and I remember the interview with Ricardo and Nadine. So Nadine Dutoit is the lady, the inspiring woman behind Glory Girl Fit. She was for the longest time an Instagram page, but now and in the last kind of couple of years she's ventured more into, like, you know, obviously spiritual content, self-awareness journeys, like being aware of like just the society we live in and living a minimalistic lifestyle, which is something that I've really been curious about and really wanting to adopt in my life. So when I had her and her at the time fiance come to the show, it was the best thing ever. I mean, I think I kept the show was meant to be like 30-40 minutes long, but I just had I it was like meeting my idol in person, you know what I mean? So I just was not only starstruck but so inspired. I think at some point I even fucking cried to her because off camera there was something that went down. She said something and I was like, how could you think that about yourself when I look up to you so much? And I literally shed a tear fucking telling her how amazing she is. So she was like, oh my God. And we've been kind of talking on Instagram ever since. So she's I'd say one of my favorite guests because I just love having human to human conversations, you know, heart to heart conversations. And I just feel like there was just no fucking filter with Nadine, and I love that about her. Her personality really shines through, her motives, her morals, and just how simple it is for her is like something I aspire.
So now you've got into hosting. This is not something you ever thought you would do.
Never.
You're a writer, poet. You're a model, content creator as well. You do many things, and you've always advocated for doing many things.
Yes.
I completely resonate with that. But I always struggle with this one question, which is to be truly great at something, you have to be obsessed with that one thing. And it's like Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, they do that one thing 12 hours a day. All musicians, actors, directors.
Same though. I
Yeah.
still think about that. I am also a huge advocate for obviously being a Jane of all trades because at a time like this, I couldn't have solely relied on just writing to make ends meet, you know, after having lost my job with the pandemic. So it really helped that I had all these other skills to fall back into. And I think that goes back into my mother's street smartness of you do whatever the fuck you can to survive, right? Not all of us have the privilege of being able to focus on that one thing we're passionate about. We don't, because if we did, I would be a fucking Egyptologist by now, right? If I had the money to study history and to study French and Arabic and not have to worry about making a living right after university and dig shit up in Egypt, I would have gone that route. I've always loved writing still. I would have written maybe for fun, just for a passion and of all my travels, like I'm, you know, fucking Paulo Coelho. But I couldn't do that, right? So that's why it's a bit of a mixed situation with
It's a
me.
gamble, right?
It's a gamble.
Okay. So before we move on to a final stage of questions, I'd love for you to interpret what we have built with the Lego here.
Mine keeps falling apart.
So let's start with yours, which is not in a stable position at this point.
It's not. It really
Um,
was earlier. I don't know what's going on. Oh no.
What do you think this is, though?
I was actually really trying to copy that one building in freaking Palm Jumeirah. That new one that they're building. Was it the second? It's not Five Palm. but it's one of the buildings there. I can't remember the name.
Guys, figure it out.
Figure it out. Google it.
I thought
As you're
I
used
thought
to
you were
by
building
now.
a unicorn, but clearly.
Listen, if it looks like a unicorn to you, I'll take that.
I mean, it would when once completed.
Over here, it could be a gun of sorts, a cute pink Barbie
cute
gun.
gun. Yeah, why not?
What about
What
you?
do you think this is?
Giving me boat. Is it a boat? I don't know what the fuck that is.
I wasn't actively building anything, but
Were you not?
no, you were, and then you came up with that.
I had an idea at some point. Yeah, imagine. I was like, you know what? Fuck, I'm gonna try to copy that stupid building. It's not stupid. It's an amazing building, but it didn't work out.
What are the buildings from Atlantis? The tall
Is
one.
it the second? Yeah, I think it's the second Atlantis because it's shaped really.
There are two of them.
There's a new one that was being built. No.
What? They didn't inform me.
I'm not gonna say that. Don't take my word
They
for it.
didn't
I'm going to Google it. They didn't inform him.
Yeah, clearly.
We'll ask his interns to confirm this later.
No one got. What is this? I don't. I put an
What is
I
that?
as well. I don't know. What do you think? Tough stuff, huh?
So tough. So fucking tough. But I mean, at least you actually, use all the other.
This is a cooking, like a kitchen counter, bro.
Oh, wait, cute.
And the cooking
the
range.
Stove.
Yeah, the stove and the tap and
whatever that is. Yeah.
Whatever. You can see it somewhere, I guess.
Fuck. See, you've had plenty practice. Good for you.
This, I'm trying to make sense of the nonsense. Okay, so let's move on to our final stage of questions.
Woo!
You mentioned a lot of authors, a lot of books. You mentioned your mother, who's been a strong source of inspiration. If I can ask you to point out any other books, movies, people that have been positive influences in your life.
Okay, definitely positive influences. Oprah Winfrey, I can't ever deny Oprah Winfrey has been such a fucking good source of inspiration. And Frank, I've mentioned this to you before. Who else? I watch the Red Table Talk a lot. Anything where you get to, like I said, listen to other people's human stories. Hala Kadhim in the UAE in particular is a very inspiring woman. She's the mother of Anas Bukash of AB Talks. I'm not sure if you've watched any of his things. You should look into it. Really great interviews. But yeah, just human stories. These are the everyday people around me. These are the people that inspire me. People who have really overcome a lot of things and still come out kind of on top.
What would you like your legacy to be like?
Just that I've maybe helped someone feel a little less alone. That's it, as simply put. Feel a little less alone.
That's a great legacy.
That's it.
Final question. What do you think is the meaning of life?
I feel like this depends on perspective, right? This can change from person to person, obviously, and it can change also at different parts of your life. But again, simply put, since I've had a lot of thinking about the meaning of life, I've come to the conclusion that we're all obviously just souls placed on this physical form to experience whatever the fuck it is life has to offer, whether that's the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it is. You're on this planet, you live it, you question what you want to question, you love whoever you want to love, you will hurt some people along the way, you'll learn from it, maybe not, you'll witness things that maybe other planets can't even witness if there is life on other planets. But at the end of the day, that's just it. You just be. You're put on this. Life is just being. That's it.
Just be. To wrap up, I have a final verse from a poem here. And I know your favorite poem is The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost.
Yes.
So that didn't make the cut. Let's just say it was a strong second. I picked the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. And the verse is, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. When in your case, you'll be a woman, my daughter. Yeah. Well,
Thanks, Dad.
Not me. I'll send Mr. Kipling an email about this. We need to make a female version about this. But Shereen, thank you so much for coming on this
Thank
show.
you.
If people want to find you in person or online, where can they find you?
Shereen Ahmed on Instagram. For some reason, it's sometimes Sherry Smith on TikTok. Right now, it's Bint Mary, though it might change. But all of these, you can find links to all my other profiles on my Instagram platform under the link tree in my bio.
Perfect.
So,
We'll add the
yeah.
links in the episode as well.
Thank
Shereen,
you.
thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Pleasure's all mine.